show off. Man, I hate hearing that, but it tends to be a part of my life. I tend to be a little bit of a show off, but that is not something you want to hear Jesus say about your prayers. Jesus said, "Don't show off. Instead, pray." Good morning and welcome to the 755 Live. For about 5 minutes, you'll hear all about an easy to remember soundbite version of what Jesus said. The point is to help you experience life to the fullest the Jesus way. Today's Jesus said comes from Matthew chapter 6, verses 5 through 8. Starting in verse 5, he says, "When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray publicly on street corners and in the synagogues, where everybody can see them. I tell you the truth, that is all the reward they will ever get. But when you pray, go away by yourself, shut the door behind you, and pray to your Father in private. Then your Father, who sees everything, will reward you. And when you pray, don't babble on and on as the Gentiles do. They think their prayers are answered merely by their repeating their words again and again. Don't be like them, for your Father knows exactly what you need, even before you ask him." Man, how much truth is in that? God knows exactly what we need before we even ask him. And Jesus is saying here, don't be doing this for a show. I like verse 7, where it says, "Don't babble on and on as the Gentiles do." I remember when I was younger, I used to really have it in my mind that if I just said my prayer over and over and over again, instead of lasting 30 seconds, it lasted 6 minutes because I'm just saying it 15 times, that it mattered more. And as a child, I think that was just my idea because I saw other people praying longer and they seemed to be, having it all together. So I was like, okay, well, I got to get to that level and I don't know what else to say. So I just said it again. But he's saying none of that matters. He's saying your Father in heaven knows what you need. Just speak to him. Just be in that relationship. There's no need to show off. This is part of what we call the Sermon on the Mount. This is all part of the long series of teachings that Jesus gave. And right after this, in verse 9, Jesus starts talking about the Lord's Prayer, which could be more accurately called really the disciples' prayer. It's a model prayer that Jesus gave them to say, hey, this is how you should pray. And today's Jesus said is the setup for that model prayer. Before giving the example of what the content should be, he's like, hey, before we get into what you should actually be praying, let's talk about how you're praying, what you're praying looks like. He's saying don't show off, just pray. He said don't be like hypocrites who just pray to be seen. Does that mean you never pray in public? Absolutely not. It's about making sure your motives and your intentions are pure and you're showing humility, that it's not about showing off. In 1 Timothy 2:8, he says, "So I want men to pray in every place, lifting up holy hands without anger or dispute." Here Paul's saying, of course, I want you to pray all the time, but without anger or dispute. Like, don't let there be a place for criticism. Don't make it to where people can be like, oh, well, he's just praying, to show off. He's saying, don't let it be that way. It's not like the Pledge of Allegiance where we're doing this to show our what we stand for or something like that. This is about a relationship. It's not about a show or a ritual. And then we also see in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 23, he says, even so, if unbelievers or people who don't understand these things come into your church meeting and hear everyone speaking in an unknown language, they will think you're crazy. Paul's saying here, but when you do get together, make sure you're doing this, like thinking about other people, not just yourself. He's saying, like, if you do pray in another language, if you have that prayer language with you and the Lord, then, try to keep that where it needs to be. If God is telling you to speak out, of course, do that. But he's saying if people come in and they've never heard anything, they've never experienced prayer corporately, they've never understood what that means, they're just going to think you're crazy. And he's saying that's not necessarily a good thing. And it's not a badge of honor to just show people what you can do, that place of relationship that you have with God that they might not be at. So when do we pray? When, where, why? When? Always. Where? Public and private. And honestly, for me, I've always thought that private matters more because I feel like if I can't really pray on my own, then it makes it weird to pray for public. It makes it feel like I'm overthinking it all the time. And honestly, that relationship's just not there. But it's about having that consistent time and place, making it important. And having a time like set, on your calendar, things that we care about, we make time for. And then the last one, why? As he says, don't babble on. This isn't about just making yourself heard. This isn't about just making a show. This is about being in that relationship with God and allowing it to change you. Prayer doesn't change the Lord. It changes us. It changes how we see things, how we're perceiving everything. And that change should be about humility and selflessness. It's about God and others too, though. It's not all about us. It's about showing people, it's about focusing more on God and other people. And, we think about the prayer, it starts with our Father, give us. And why does he say give us? It's because it's all together, the plurality of discipleship that prayer isn't about just focusing on me and what I need, but it's focusing on us, the world in general, and leading people to Christ and how we can do that. So again, Jesus said, don't show off, pray. How can you put that into action today? Thank you so much for listening. I hope if you really enjoyed this that you can like, comment, share. If you want to follow along with us in the Bible plan, that's at bible.today.church. I really appreciate you. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope this time together has helped you to live life to the fullest, the Jesus way. And remember, guys, don't show off. Pray. Build that relationship between you and the Lord and see how amazing life can be with him. Remember, we end everything by saying, follow Jesus today and love first. Thank you, guys.